In this video, we'll look at how we can insert icons or images for JavaFX applications. We'll look at how we can insert an icon on the main application window. For example, our Eclipse has an icon at the top left end of the application window. We'll look at how we can insert icons on the menu items, and we'll also look at the buttons, how we can insert icons or images there. We would also look at radio buttons with regards to how we can set the button group in JavaFX and how we can add icons to radio buttons. You can create your own icons or images to be used in your JavaFX application. However, if you want to use already made icons, you can download and install the app called Icons 8 from the website that is shown. So let's go to the website, download and install the Icons 8 application. At the Icons 8 website, you can download the installer for your operating system. You can either download the Windows installer or the Mac OS installer. If you are using Windows, you can click on the Get from the Windows Store and you would be able to download it there as well. When you open your Icons 8 after installation, this is what you would be presented with. And as we can see, we have lots of icons which we can use depending on which operating system we are designing our app for, whether we are designing for iOS or we are designing for Windows, or we just want all the icons. So we can search for any icon of our choice, assuming we want the save icon, and we search for it. It presents for us all the possible save icons we can use. So whichever icon you want, you search for it and you will see an icon similar to what you are looking for. At the top right end of the icons application, we can see we have PNG, which means if you are picking any of these icons or images, it will be saved as PNG. We can change that by simply selecting the .icon and it will be saved as .icon. However, we would not be able to select .svg, .pdf, .eps because they are locked. So what we should note is Icon 8 is not entirely free. If we want to be able to access these ones, we need to go to the settings, we log in, and we would be able to purchase them to use in our applications. So we'll go back to our Eclipse and see how we can get these icons on our Eclipse for our JavaFX applications. Let's minimize our Icons 8 application and create a new JavaFX project. So we go to File, New, we pick Other, and we are looking for JavaFX. So JavaFX, we click on Next, we give it a name. We click on Next, go to Next, and we leave it as it is. The language, we select FXML, we pick Anchor Pane, and we can leave the names as they are or we can change them. So I would leave them as they are and click on Finish. What I need to do now is to create a folder inside the source that will store the images that I'll be using in my application. What I need to do now is to right click on the SRC, go to New, select Folder, and I give it a name. What name do I want to give to my folder that will store the images? I will call it Images. I click on Finish, and my images will be stored in this folder. So we go back to our Icons application and the images that we want. So in our Icons application, assuming we want to use the save icon, we simply search for the save and we pick the save icon of our choice. So assuming this is what we want to pick, we drag it and drop on the images folder that we created. We would see a pop-up, either we want to copy or link. We want to copy it. We can also come to the computer drag and drop settings to change the settings. I would not change it for now. So we want to copy the files, we select and click on OK, and it will copy it into our images folder. So the next icon we would want to use is the close. So we go back to our icons folder and we search for close. So we have various close icons. So assuming this is what we want, we drag it and drop in our images folder and we select copy again. We go back and we look for help. And we get the various help icons. So I would want the colored one. So I select color and I drag the help and add it to the images folder. I want to copy. Then we go back and we look for about. And I look for the one that has about. I drag it and add it to my images folder. Then we go and look for edit. And I pick the type of edit I want, assuming this is what I want. Place it. Now let's look for delete. We drag the delete and we drop it in our images folder. Let's look for Java icon. So we have our Java icon, drag it and drop it in our images folder. And we look for Python and C#. So we can already see Python here. So we drag it and drop. And we also have the C#. So we drag C# and drop in our images. Let's look for the file icon. So we look for file and we have our file. We drag it and drop it in our images folder. So we can see the icons, the names are too long. We can rename them. We simply go to the folder that contains these icons and we rename them. So over here we can rename them. This is about. So we are done with our renaming. We can go back to the Eclipse and continue with our code. So when we come to the Eclipse, we simply refresh so that the names would be shorter and we can refer to them. So what we need to do now is to open our XML file with the scene builder. So we right click, open with scene builder. Once the scene builder opens, what we need to do is to select the anchor pane. We go to the layout and we change the properties, the preferred width. Let's make it 400 and the preferred height, let's change it to 400. So now we can see our anchor pane. So what we need to do is to first of all add a menu bar. So we go to the library and search for menu. So we drag and drop the menu bar over our anchor pane. We can expand it if we want. Now we go and expand our menu bar, and under the menu bar we have the file as a menu and close as an item. We also have edit and delete. So under edit, let us add another menu item. So we just drag the menu item and add it to the edit, and we'll call this one save. So we select it, go to the properties and change the name to save. Under the menu help, we will leave it as it is. Let's collapse our menu bar and add some other elements on our anchor pane. So what we would add first is a radio button. So we look for radio button and we add 3 of them. So radio button 1, 2, and 3. So we change the names of these radio buttons. The first one, let us call it Java. We select it, go to properties and change the text to Java. The second one, let us call it Python. And the third one, let us call it C#. So these are the programming languages we want the user to select. So for these radio buttons, let's give each of them a unique ID reference in the controller class. So for Java, let us call it RDN Java, and for Python, let us call it RDN, and for C#, let us call it RDN C#. Now let's add a button which will give the user the option to save the selected programming language. So we go to the library and we look for button, we drag the button and we drop it. So we can expand our button, we go to the properties and we change the text to save. Now let's add a label to display the selected programming language when the user clicks on save. So we go to the library and we look for label. We drag it and we drop. We expand our label and we go to the properties. In the text, we will type selected programming language. So that whenever the user selects a programming language, either Java, Python, or C# and clicks on save, it will display the selected programming language. So when we preview, we can see that we would be able to select all the radio buttons. So how do we ensure that the user only has the option to select one? So we close it and we go back to the radio buttons. So we select one of the radio buttons, and under properties, we scroll down, we'll see toggle group. So in a toggle group, which group does it belong to? So let's create a toggle group called programming. Now we can add the rest of the radio buttons to this same group. So if we select Python, you would see that now the toggle group has a drop-down list. We select it and it belongs to the programming group. If we preview it at the moment, we would be able to select Python or Java, but we can select any of them with C# because we've not indicated the group C# belongs to. So we go to the C# too, we select the toggle group and we pick programming group. Now we can only pick one of these programming languages. So when we preview, we have the option to pick S of the three. Let's close it and give our label a unique name. So we select the label, go to the code, and we call it LBL. Okay, so we can reference it in our controller class. Before we write any codes to handle our events, let's add icons or images to our components. In JavaFX, if we want to add an icon or image to a component, we can use the image view to do that. So assuming we want to add an image or icon to the save button, what we need to do is to place an image view in the button. So we go to the library and we search for image view. We drag the image view on top of the button. So this places an image inside the button. Now we can select the image view and we go to the properties. Under properties we have image. What image do we want to be there? So we click on it, browse for it, and we go to the folder that contains our images. We double click. We are looking for the save image or the save icon. We select it and open. Now we can resize our image view to the size that we want. If this is what we want, we leave it as it is. We can do some further modification. When we select the button, you can see under properties, we have what they refer to as a graphic text gap. How far do we want the text and the graphic that we have inserted on the button to be from each other? So if we put 0, see that they are close now. If we want it further apart, we can put 10 and the space between the graphic and the text. We can as well change how we want the content to be displayed. If we want the text to be at the left, we leave it at left. If we want it at the top, we can change that. If we want it at the right, we can change that as well. So let's leave it at the left. If we want only the graphics, we can select only graphics, and this is how it will look like. So let's leave it at left and change this to 5. So our image has been added to the button. We now want to add an image to our radio buttons. How do we do that? It's the same thing as we did with the button save. What we need to do is to drag an image view on all the 3 radio buttons that we have. So we have an image view over Java. What we need to do is to select the image view again, go to the properties and the image. We look for the image, we select Java, and we will have it soon. So we simply resize it, or we can select the image view, go to the layout, and change the size. So let's make it 20 and 20. So similar to how we configure the save button, we can select the radio button Java, go to the properties, and under graphics, we change it to right. So we want the text first and the picture next. So we have Java and the image at the right side of it. So we'll do the same for Python and C#. We simply drag and drop image views on the 2 radio buttons, and we know the sizes that we are going to use. So for our C# image, we select C#, and for the size of the image, we are going to change that to 20, and for the Python, we go to the properties, we select the image view, go to the properties, and we look for Python. And again, we go down to the layout for the image view and change it to 20 for the width, 20 for the height. So again, we can select the radio button Python and go to the properties. We want the text to be on the right. We do the same for the radio button C#. So we want the text to be on the right. The next thing we'll do is to add icons to the menu items. So we first of all expand our menu bar, and for our menu item or the menu port file, we want to add an icon. So we simply just drag and drop the image view on the menu file, and what we need to do is to insert a picture or an icon here. So we go to the properties and we look for file. This is file. We select. All we need to do is to change the size of the image view. So we go to layout and we make it 20. So our file menu has an icon attached to it. We do the same for the menu item close. We drag and drop the image view on top of the close menu item, and we go to the properties. We look for the image close, select it, and what we need to do is to change the size of it. So the image view is selected. We go to layout and we change it to 20 for the width, 20 for the height. So we do the same for the rest of them. We drag an image view on top of edit menu, and we go to the properties, look for the edit, and we change the size of the image. So we go to layout and make it 20, and we drag another image view over the delete. we drag another image view over the save. In the delete image view, we select it, change the size to 20, we change the image to delete. In the save menu item, we change the image to save, and we change the size to our preferred size, 20. So the one that we are left with is the help. So we go to the help, we drag an image view on top of help, we drag another image view on top of the about menu item. So for the about menu item, we change the size to 20, and we change the image to about. And for the help, we set the image to help, and we change the size to our preferred size, 20. We can now preview it to see how it looks like. So we can see our application looks a bit presentable, and we can select the programming language of our choice. We close it, and we now go to the code. So we need to copy the declarations for some of our components that we put here. We are not writing codes for everything. We are only writing codes for the radio buttons, the save button, and the label to display the programming language. So we simply go to View, Show Sample Skeleton, and we are copying the declarations for the radio buttons and the display. So we copy, close, and we go back to our Eclipse. We go to our controller, and we paste it here. So we need to import the fxml. We click on import. We need to import the JavaFX radio button. We need to import the toggle group JavaFX, and we need to import the label JavaFX label, and our errors are all gone. So we can now write our method that will handle the event when the user clicks on the save button. So let's call our method save selection, and we just want to use simple if-else statement such that when the user clicks on save selection, it should check which radio button is selected. If it is any of them, it should display the text that is attached to that radio button. So assuming we want to check that if the radio button for Java is selected, simply display on the label Java. So inside our if statement, we say if rdn Java dot is selected, what do we want to do? We want the label to display LBL display dot set text. We want the text to be changed to selected programming language, and the text that is accompanying the radio button for Java. So we say rdn Java dot get text. So it will simply get the text which we wrote at the property side. If it is not the Java radio button that is selected, it could be the Python. So we say else if and we are simply going to copy this and paste. So if it is the Python radio button that is selected, we want it to display the selected programming language is rdn python.getText. If it is not the Python radio button, it is a C# radio button. So we are simply going to copy this and paste. Now here we change to C# rdn C# and we change this one to rdn C# as well. So if it is not any of these, it's likely the user has not selected anything at all. So we simply say else. The user has not selected anything, and we simply say no programming language selected. So we save it, go to our main, and here we want to make our anchor pane not resizable. So we say primary stage dot set resizable, and we change it to false. So when we run it, we don't expect the window to be resizable. Let's save it, and we save our controller class too, and we go back to our scene builder to link. So we now select the save button, and we go to code. Under code, what do we want it to do when the user clicks on it? We want it to simply display for us the selected programming language on the label. So we can save it again, go to file, save, and we go back to our Eclipse. In the Eclipse, we refresh our project. Now we can run it to see what happens. So we can see it's showing, and we can see the icons are displaying well. We can select Java, Python, or C#. So we select Java and we click on save, saying Java, Python, saying Python, and C# is saying C#. So we can see there is no icon on our application window. So how do we set that? We close it and go back to our Eclipse. Below the code where we added the premise stage is not resizable, we are simply going to add another code to display the icon. So we say primary stage dot get icon dot add, and we want to add an image. So we say new image, and the new image we give a directory or the path to the image we want to add. So we say the directory is in the images folder in our project. So we are simply going to use the slash images slash what image do we want to be displayed on our application when it runs. So let's say we add save dot png. Now we need to import the JavaFX image before it will work. So our error is gone. We can now run it and see if it will show. So we can see the save icon is now the default icon for our application. One thing we can do is to set a default radio button which will be selected anytime the application runs. So if you want Java to be selected whenever the application is run, we can change that at the scene builder. We close this one, go to the scene builder, select the Java radio button, and under properties we can see selected. If we select it, that means whenever the user runs the application, Java should be the one that will be selected. So let's save it, go back to our code, we refresh, and now we run it to see if Java will be selected. So as we can see, by default, Java is the one that is selected. So that is it. We are done with our practicals for today. We've been able to add some icons to our application window. As you can see, there is a save icon here. So depending on whatever icon you want, you can add it there. We've been able to add icons to our menu items. We've been able to add icons to our radio button. We've been able to get the selected radio button using the save button. And we can display which one is selected when the user clicks on it. So that is it for this.